Tom woke up early every morning before the sun touched the roofs of the small houses in his town. The town was quiet, simple, and close to nature, but life there was not easy. Tom was a single father raising his daughter Anna on his own. He worked as a mechanic, running a small garage near the main road that cut through the town. His garage was old, with a tin roof and walls marked with years of oil and dust, but it was his pride. It was the place that helped him earn money for food, rent, and school fees for Anna. Tom was not a man of many words, but everyone in town knew him as honest and hardworking. His clothes often smelled of grease, his hands were rough, and his days were filled with the sound of tools striking metal. Still, he never complained. Each evening, when the garage doors closed, he returned to his small house where Anna waited with a bright smile. She was the reason he worked so hard. Anna was 8 years old, full of life and wiser than her age. She often sat in a corner of the garage after school, reading books or drawing on scrap paper while Tom worked. She liked being near her father, even if he was busy with cars. Sometimes she would ask questions about engines, and Tom would patiently explain. Other times she would invent stories about the people driving the cars that came to the garage. Her imagination made Tom laugh, and in those moments the weight on his shoulders felt lighter. Tom had faced many struggles since Anna's mother passed away. He had promised himself that he would never let his daughter feel unloved. Though money was always short, he tried his best to give her a safe and happy childhood. He cooked for her, helped her with homework, and made sure she slept with a smile. Their house was small, with 2 rooms and a tiny kitchen, but for Tom and Anna it was filled with warmth. Life moved in a steady rhythm for them. Every morning Tom opened the garage and Anna went to school. In the afternoon she returned and joined her father at work. They ate simple lunches, sometimes bread and soup, sometimes rice and vegetables, but it never mattered. What mattered was that they were together. Yet despite the routine, Tom often worried at night. Bills piled up on the table, and repairs for the garage were overdue. The tools he used were old, and some days he had to borrow from neighbors. He wished he could give Anna more, maybe new clothes or a chance to visit the city, but he reminded himself that love and care were more valuable than riches. Anna, in her own innocent way, sensed her father's worries. She would hug him tightly and say, "We are fine, Daddy. We don't need big things. We just need each other." Her words gave Tom strength. He believed his daughter had a pure heart, one that could see happiness where others saw problems. One warm afternoon, when the air was filled with the smell of dust and gasoline, Tom heard the sound of an engine sputtering outside. It was not the usual sound of the old cars that came to his garage. This was sharper, smoother, and far more powerful. He stepped out and saw a sight that made him pause. A long, shining black car had stopped right in front of the garage. Its surface reflected the sunlight and its tires were spotless. It was a car that clearly did not belong to this small town. Anna put down her book and ran to her father's side, her eyes wide with surprise. "Daddy, look at that car. It looks like the ones in the magazines." The door opened and out stepped a tall woman dressed in an elegant suit. Her shoes were polished, her hair neatly tied, and her presence carried an air of importance. The few people walking by stopped to stare. No one in town dressed like that, and no one in town owned a car like hers. Tom wiped his hands on a rag and walked forward. The woman looked around, clearly frustrated, then turned to Tom. Her voice was calm but firm as she said, "My car broke down. Can you fix it?" Tom gave a respectful nod. "I can take a look, ma'am." As he opened the hood, he felt the weight of her eyes on him. He tried not to let it distract him, but he knew this was no ordinary visitor. Something about her presence told him that his simple life was about to change in ways he could not yet imagine. The hood of the luxury car lifted, and Tom leaned over to study the engine. He had fixed many vehicles in his life, from tractors to old trucks, but this was unlike anything he usually saw in his garage. The machine inside looked polished, advanced, and complicated. Still, Tom was not a man to be shaken by challenge. He had steady hands and a sharp mind when it came to engines. The woman in the suit stood beside him with her arms crossed, watching closely. She was not just anyone, and Tom could sense it. Even before she spoke, her calm but commanding presence told him she belonged to a world far away from this small town. Anna, curious as always, peeked from behind her father and studied the woman's shiny shoes and the bag she carried. "Do you think you can fix it?" the woman asked, her voice careful, though a trace of worry slipped through. "I can try, ma'am," Tom replied politely. Engines speak the same language no matter how expensive the car is. The woman's lips curved slightly, almost forming a smile, though it faded quickly. She glanced at her watch, then at the road. Clearly, she was in a hurry. Tom bent deeper into the engine, his hands moving with skill. He checked the wires, the plugs, and the coolant. His old tools looked almost out of place against the shining parts, but he worked with confidence. Within a few minutes, he spotted the trouble, a loose connection that was stopping the engine from running smoothly. Anna stood near the woman now, bold enough to ask, "Is this your car?" "It looks like the ones in my storybooks." The woman looked down at Anna. For a moment, her expression softened. "Yes, it is mine, and it should not have stopped like this." Anna tilted her head. "Cars stop sometimes. My dad always says even the best cars need care." The woman raised her brows slightly at the child's words. She opened her mouth to respond but stopped when Tom straightened up. He wiped sweat from his forehead with the rag and said, "I think I found the problem. It will take a little time, but it's nothing too serious." Relief passed across the woman's face. She nodded, stepping aside to let him continue. As Tom worked, Anna stayed close to the stranger. She was never shy around people, and soon she was speaking freely. "I like your car, but you look tired. Did you come from far away?" The woman hesitated again, then replied softly, "Yes, from the city." Anna's eyes grew wide. She had never visited the city, though she often dreamed of it. She imagined tall buildings, bright lights, and shops filled with wonders. "The city must be big and beautiful," Anna said with excitement. "It is big," the woman answered, though her voice carried no joy. "But not always beautiful." Before Anna could ask more, Tom called out. He had tightened the connections and checked the engine again. With a turn of the key, the car roared back to life, smooth and powerful. The sound made heads turn on the street. Tom closed the hood with a firm motion and stepped back. "All fixed," he said simply. The woman's eyes brightened, and for the first time since she arrived, she smiled. "That was fast." "You are very skilled," Tom shook his head modestly. "Just experience, ma'am. I've been fixing engines all my life." She reached into her bag and pulled out a wallet. When she handed him a few crisp notes, Tom glanced at them and immediately shook his head. "That's too much. It was a small job. I'll only take what is fair." The woman studied him with interest. Most people she met never refused money, but here was a man who valued honesty more than profit. Slowly, she put the extra notes back into her wallet and paid him only the amount he asked. Before she left, she looked at Anna again. The little girl was smiling brightly, her eyes full of curiosity. "You are lucky to have such a smart daughter," the woman said to Tom. Tom's face softened and he nodded. "She is my whole world." The woman stepped into her car, but before closing the door, she spoke once more. "Thank you. You may have saved me from missing something important today." The engine purred as she drove away, the black car disappearing down the road. Tom stood quietly for a moment, wiping his hands again. Anna tugged his arm and whispered, "Daddy." She looked rich, but also lonely. Tom glanced at his daughter, thoughtful, though he said nothing. Deep inside, he felt that this was not the last time they would see the woman with the broken car. The days in the small town went back to their usual rhythm. Tom fixed cars, tractors, and motorbikes while Anna read books, drew pictures, and sometimes helped by handing her father small tools. Life was simple again, yet something about the woman with the luxury car stayed in both their minds. For Anna, it was curiosity. She had never seen anyone like Clara before. The woman's clothes, the way she spoke, even the way she carried herself, it all felt new and different. For Tom, it was respect. He could not stop thinking about how calmly she had handled the situation and how she had smiled at Anna with real kindness before leaving. One quiet afternoon, as Tom was repairing a truck, he heard the low hum of a familiar engine outside the garage. He looked up in surprise. The black luxury car had returned. Anna clapped her hands with delight. "Daddy, it's her." She came back. Clara stepped out of the car, but this time her expression was softer. She was not rushed, nor did she look frustrated. She held a small bag in her hand and gave a polite nod to Tom. "I was passing through," she explained, "and thought I would stop by." Tom wiped his hands and walked forward. "Is there a problem with the car again?" "No," Clara said, almost smiling. "The car is fine, but I wanted to thank you properly." She handed him the bag. Inside were fresh books for Anna and a flask of hot coffee for Tom. Anna's eyes lit up when she saw the colorful covers of the books. "For me?" she asked, holding them close to her chest. Clara nodded. "Yes, I thought you might enjoy them." Tom was surprised. "You didn't have to do this, ma'am. Fixing the car was just my job." "Not many people do their job with such honesty," Clara replied. "You charged me less than what I offered." "That is rare." Tom felt a little uncomfortable under her direct gaze. He was not used to being noticed by people of her world. "I only take what is fair," he said simply. Clara looked around the garage. The tools were old and the walls carried years of wear. Yet she noticed the pride in Tom's voice and the warmth in Anna's eyes. This was not a place of wealth, but it was a place of heart. Anna, meanwhile, had already opened one of the books and was flipping through the pages with excitement. She ran to Clara and said, "Thank you. I love reading. Maybe one day I will write a story too." Clara crouched down so her eyes were level with the child's. "I am sure you will. You have a spark in you, Anna." Hearing Clara speak his daughter's name so kindly surprised Tom. "How do you know her name?" Anna giggled. "I told her last time, Daddy. She asked me questions while you were fixing the car." Tom shook his head gently, half amused. Anna was always quick to talk to strangers, though in this case he felt glad she had. The afternoon passed in easy conversation. Clara asked about the town, about Anna's school, and even about Tom's work. She listened carefully to every answer, something people rarely did with him. Most of his customers only cared about their cars being fixed quickly, but Clara seemed genuinely interested. At one point, Anna leaned closer to Clara and asked innocently, "Do you have children?" The question caught Clara off guard. She hesitated before shaking her head. "No, I don't." Anna frowned slightly. "So you live alone?" Clara looked down for a moment, then nodded. "Yes, I live alone." The child's honest eyes studied her with concern. "You look like you need family." "My daddy says family makes everything better." Clara's throat tightened. She had not expected such words from a little girl, yet they touched her more deeply than she cared to admit. She gave a small smile and replied, "Your father is right." When Clara finally stood to leave, she promised to return again, not because of her car, but because she enjoyed their company. Tom watched her drive away, feeling puzzled but strangely content. That night, as Anna prepared for bed, she whispered to her father, "Daddy, she is rich, but she is not happy." "I think she needs us." Tom chuckled softly and kissed her forehead. "Anna, you can't go around adopting strangers." But when the house grew quiet, Tom lay awake thinking about his daughter's words. Perhaps, just perhaps, Anna had seen something in Clara that he had missed. Clara kept her word. A few days later, her car appeared again in front of Tom's garage. This time it was not broken and she did not look rushed. She stepped out carrying a basket filled with food. Tom looked up from the engine he was repairing and raised an eyebrow in surprise. "I thought you might not have had lunch yet," Clara said, placing the basket on a workbench. "So I brought some." Anna's face lit up when she saw sandwiches, fruit, and even small cakes inside the basket. She clapped her hands and ran to her father. "Daddy, look! She brought us a feast." Tom was not used to such kindness from strangers, let alone from someone like Clara. He hesitated, unsure how to respond. "You really didn't need to do this, ma'am." "I wanted to," Clara replied calmly. "It's nice to share food with good company." So for the first time, Tom, Anna, and Clara sat together on simple wooden stools inside the garage, eating lunch. The scene was unusual, yet it felt natural. Clara listened to Anna talk about school and her dreams of writing stories. She even laughed when Anna described a story about a magical talking car that wanted to live in a small town instead of a city. Tom watched Clara carefully. He noticed how different she looked here compared to how she must appear in her world of tall glass buildings and endless meetings. Here she smiled more. Her laughter sounded genuine. He wondered if this was the Clara that few people got to see. After lunch, Clara stayed longer than Tom expected. She rolled up her sleeves and asked if she could help in the garage. Tom almost laughed at the thought, but Anna cheered. "Yes, let her try, Daddy." Clara picked up a rag and began polishing tools while Tom worked on the truck. She was not skilled with machines, but she seemed eager to learn. Tom explained the basics, and Clara listened closely. Anna teased her gently when she held a wrench the wrong way, and Clara laughed without offense. Time passed quickly, and before anyone realized, the sun was sinking low in the sky. Clara stood and brushed dust from her clothes. "I should go," she said, though her voice carried a hint of reluctance. Anna rushed forward. Will you come again? Clara paused, looking at the girl's hopeful eyes. Yes, I will come again. From then on, Clara began visiting the garage often. Sometimes she brought food, sometimes books, and sometimes nothing at all. Only herself. Each visit was different, but every visit deepened the bond between them. Tom found himself enjoying her company more than he expected. Clara was not only wealthy and powerful, she was also thoughtful and curious. She asked about his life, listened to his stories, and respected his struggles. Tom had never spoken so freely to someone outside his circle. But with Clara, words came easily. Anna, of course, adored Clara. She treated her like a long-lost aunt, always running to her side and dragging her into games or stories. Clara responded with warmth, often kneeling down to Anna's level to talk or play. There was something in Clara's eyes when she looked at the child, a longing that she herself might not have realized before. One evening, as they sat outside the garage watching the sunset, Clara asked softly, "Don't you ever feel this life is too hard, Tom?" Tom shrugged. "Life has never been easy, but I have Anna. She makes it worth it." Clara nodded slowly, her gaze far away. "You are fortunate. I have all the money one could ask for, but sometimes I feel I have nothing." Anna, sitting between them, looked up at Clara and said, "You're not nothing. You have us." The words made Clara blink back sudden emotion. She reached out and held Anna's small hand. For a moment, silence wrapped around them, broken only by the chirping of crickets. That night, when Clara finally drove away, Tom stood outside the garage for a long time. He felt the shift happening in his life. Clara was no longer just a customer or a visitor. She was becoming a friend who belonged to a different world, yet somehow fit into his and Anna's small one. And though Tom did not say it aloud, he knew Anna was right. Clara was lonely, but perhaps slowly, they were filling that emptiness together. One evening, the sky was painted in soft shades of orange and pink. Tom had just finished a long day at the garage, and Anna was already in bed. She loved bedtime because it meant listening to her father's gentle stories before she drifted to sleep. As Tom tucked the blanket around her, Anna looked at him with wide, thoughtful eyes. "Daddy," she whispered, "I made a wish today." Tom smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her forehead. "And what did you wish for, little one?" "I wish that Clara could stay with us like family," Anna said simply. "She always looks so alone even when she smiles." Tom froze for a moment, caught off guard by her words. He tried to laugh it off. "Clara is a busy woman from the city. She has her own life. We are just simple people here," but Anna shook her head. "Family isn't about money or big houses. Family is about love. You say that all the time." Her innocent words sank deep into Tom's heart. He kissed her forehead softly and whispered, "Sleep now, Anna. Dreams are made for wishes like yours." But as he sat later in the quiet living room, her wish echoed in his mind. Could it ever be possible? The next day, Clara returned once again, this time carrying art supplies for Anna. Brushes, colors, and sketch pads filled the little girl with joy. She painted bright pictures right there in the garage while Clara and Tom spoke. Clara seemed more relaxed than before. She laughed easily, asked about Tom's daily work, and even listened to his worries about bills and repairs. Tom had never shared such thoughts with her before, but somehow with Clara he did not feel ashamed. She did not judge him. When Anna showed Clara her painting of a smiling sun over a small house, Clara studied it closely. "It looks warm and happy," she said gently. "It's our house," Anna explained proudly. "This is Daddy, this is me, and here," she pointed to a tall figure drawn beside them, "is you." Clara's eyes widened in surprise. For a moment she could not speak. Finally she whispered, "You drew me and your family?" "Yes," Anna replied with all the honesty of a child. "Because you belong with us." Tom, embarrassed, tried to change the subject, but Clara held the drawing in her hands for a long time. She had never been included in such a picture before. Her life had always been filled with meetings, numbers, and people who saw her only as a leader or a boss, never as family. That night, when she returned to her apartment in the city, Clara found herself staring at Anna's drawing. She placed it on her desk among piles of contracts and papers. It looked out of place, yet it brought warmth to the cold room. Meanwhile, in their small home, Anna asked her father again, "Do you think Clara will ever stay?" Tom sighed. "She has a big world out there, Anna, but maybe she will keep coming back." Days turned into weeks, and Clara's visits became part of their routine. She brought laughter, stories from the city, and sometimes just quiet companionship. Tom noticed how naturally she fit into their evenings, how Anna ran to her with open arms, and how Clara's eyes softened when she looked at the little girl. One evening, as they sat together outside under the stars, Anna whispered her wish aloud once more. "I wish you could be here every day, Clara." Clara's heart tightened. She did not answer right away. Instead, she reached out and held Anna's hand. "You are very special," she said softly. "Both of you." Tom heard the tremor in her voice. For the first time, he realized how deeply she might be longing for the very thing Anna had wished for. That night, when Clara drove away, Tom stood at the gate with Anna. The little girl leaned against him and said, "Wishes come true if you believe." Tom looked down at her, half smiling, half uncertain. But inside, a small spark of hope began to grow. Anna's wish was simple, yet it carried a power that might change all of their lives forever. The friendship between Tom, Clara, and Anna grew stronger with each passing week. Clara's car was no longer the reason for her visits. She came because she wanted to. Sometimes she stayed for tea in the small kitchen. Sometimes she joined Anna in painting or reading. Other times she simply sat near the garage watching Tom work while they talked about life. For Anna, it was like having another parent. She began to share her secrets with Clara, telling her about school, her dreams, and her worries. Clara listened with patience, always giving kind answers. For Tom, it was something deeper. He felt less alone, and the weight he carried every day seemed lighter whenever Clara was around. But not everyone in the town saw it this way. Whispers began to rise. People passing by the garage would look twice when they saw Clara's black car parked outside. At the market, Tom overheard neighbors speaking. Some said Clara was only amusing herself with the mechanic and his daughter. Others claimed Tom was hoping for her money. Tom tried to ignore the words, but they stung. He had built his life on honesty, and now people questioned his intentions. He worried that Clara might hear these rumors and decide to leave. Clara, too, faced pressure in her world. Her business partners noticed her frequent trips to the small town. They asked why she spent so much time away from meetings and projects. One evening, during a dinner in the city, a colleague leaned closer and said, "You are losing focus. What is in that small town that keeps you so busy?" Clara gave no answer. She only smiled politely, but inside she felt a battle. She had spent years building her empire, earning respect and wealth, yet none of it filled the emptiness she carried. Time with Tom and Anna, however, gave her peace. Still, she feared what might happen if she chose that life over the one she had built. Back in the town, the tension grew. One afternoon, Clara arrived at the garage to find Tom quieter than usual. He worked without speaking much, his face serious. Anna noticed and asked, "Daddy, what's wrong?" Tom hesitated, but Clara pressed gently. "Tell me, Tom, what is troubling you?" He finally set his tools aside and looked at her. "People are talking. They think I spend time with you for money. They think you are only here for amusement." Clara's eyes darkened. "Do you believe them?" Tom shook his head firmly. "No, but I fear you might hear it and walk away." For a long moment, silence filled the garage. Then Clara said softly, "I don't care what they say. I know why I come here. I know what matters to me." Her words eased Tom's heart, though doubts still lingered. He had lived in this town his whole life. He knew how cruel gossip could be. That evening, Clara joined them for dinner in their small kitchen. The meal was simple, bread, soup, and vegetables, but Clara ate with gratitude, praising Anna's help in preparing it. Anna, with her usual boldness, broke the heavy mood. She said, "People can talk all they want. They don't know us. They don't know what family feels like." Clara looked at her with admiration. "You are very wise for your age, Anna." Anna grinned. "That's because Daddy always says love is stronger than fear." The words struck both adults deeply. Tom realized his daughter saw things with a clarity that he often missed. Clara felt her heart tighten, knowing the child spoke the truth she herself had been avoiding. Later that night, as Clara prepared to leave, Tom walked her to her car. The air was cool and stars dotted the sky. Clara looked at him and said, "I don't want to let gossip or business rules decide what I feel. I come here because I want to, and I will keep coming." Tom's voice was quiet but steady. Then we will face it together. When Clara drove away, Tom stood for a while in the still night. The doubts were still there, but alongside them grew something stronger. Hope. He realized that no matter what others said, there was something real between them. And perhaps Anna's wish was slowly shaping into reality, even if the world tried to stand in the way. Days passed, and Clara's visits became even more frequent. She no longer came only in her sleek black car. Sometimes she walked through the town streets carrying a basket of fruit or books for Anna. She looked less like the distant billionaire and more like a friend who belonged. Anna adored these moments. She would wait near the window, her eyes scanning the road, and when Clara appeared, she would run out with a wide smile. Tom, though quieter, felt the warmth too. Clara's presence turned their little house into something brighter, something fuller. But behind that joy, Clara's world in the city grew restless. Her board of directors complained about her long absences. A big project needed her full attention, and newspapers started to question her leadership. Headlines read, "Billionaire businesswoman distracted and company faces delays." Clara had always been seen as strong, focused, and unbeatable, but now her choices were questioned. One evening, she sat in her tall glass office staring at the skyline. Her assistant placed a report in front of her. "We need your decision, ma'am," he said. "Do we move forward with the deal or step back?" Clara's hands rested on the paper, but her thoughts were not on the deal. They were on Tom's quiet smile and Anna's hopeful eyes. For the first time, Clara wondered if she even wanted this world anymore. Back in the small town, Tom was also fighting with himself. He cared for Clara more than he admitted, but fear held him back. He thought of her wealth, her city life, and her powerful position. He asked himself if he had the right to hope for more. He was only a mechanic with grease on his hands and bills piled on his table. One night after Anna went to sleep, Tom sat alone in the kitchen. He looked at the empty chair where Clara often sat and whispered to himself, "What if she deserves better than this?" The next morning, Clara arrived early, carrying fresh bread and a smile. Anna hugged her tightly and said, "I wished last night that you could stay forever." Tom's heart shook at the words. He tried to hide his feelings, but Clara noticed. She gently asked, "Why do you look troubled today?" Tom sighed. "Clara, I don't want you to lose your world because of us. You built so much. You don't need a man like me slowing you down." Clara placed the bread on the table and stepped closer. "Tom, do you think I don't know what I want? All the money, all the buildings, all the people who call me powerful. It means little when I leave your home." "Here with you and Anna, I feel alive," Tom struggled to answer. Before he could, Anna spoke up with her clear young voice. "Daddy, don't push her away. You always tell me that family is about love, not about money. Isn't that true now?" The room went quiet. Tom looked at his daughter, then at Clara. He realized Anna's wish was no small dream. She wanted them to be a family. Later that day, Clara invited Tom and Anna for a drive. She took them to a quiet hill outside town where the view stretched far and wide. The wind blew softly and the sunset painted the sky in gold and orange. "I brought you here because I must make a choice," Clara said. "The city is pulling me, my company is demanding me, but my heart is pulling me here. I can't live in both worlds forever. I need to know, Tom, if there is a place for me with you and Anna." Tom stood silent, his chest heavy with emotion. Anna looked at him with pleading eyes. "Daddy, please say yes. Please let her stay." Tom finally spoke, his voice low but steady. "Clara, I don't have riches or grand houses. I only have this small life. But if you choose us, then you will always have a place here. You will have my heart and Anna's love." Clara's eyes filled with tears, but they were tears of relief. She reached out, taking Tom's hand and then Anna's. "Then my choice is clear. I choose you both." As the sun dipped below the horizon, the three of them stood together holding hands. It was not the end of their troubles. Clara still had to face her world in the city, and Tom still had to face the town's whispers. But in that moment, they knew something stronger than fear had begun. Anna whispered happily, "My wish is coming true." And Tom realized that his daughter's simple dream was about to change all of their lives forever. The following morning, the sun rose over the small town, spilling golden light across the rooftops and fields. Tom woke early as usual and glanced out the window. Something felt different today. Clara was not just a visitor. She was part of their lives now, and the thought made his heart feel lighter than it had in years. Anna, already awake, ran to him with her drawing from last week clutched in her hand. "Daddy, look!" "I added us together, like a real family now." Tom smiled, kneeling down to examine the picture. In bright colors, Anna had drawn 3 figures holding hands, standing in front of their small home. One was clearly her, one was him, and the third, a smiling figure in neat clothes, was Clara. The little girl's imagination had brought their wish to life even before words could make it real. Clara arrived soon after, carrying fresh flowers. She placed them in a small vase on the kitchen table and smiled at Tom and Anna. "Good morning," she said warmly. "I hope today is as bright as your hearts." Anna ran into her arms. "You are part of our family now." Clara laughed, the sound light and free, and hugged her tightly. Tom watched them, feeling a happiness he thought he had forgotten. He realized that the emptiness Clara had once carried and the loneliness he had felt after losing his wife could now be healed together. Over the next few weeks, life settled into a new rhythm. Clara began dividing her time carefully between the city and the small town. She still had her work, her business decisions, and her meetings, but she made time for what mattered most. She spent mornings in the city handling urgent tasks and evenings with Tom and Anna. Sometimes she even joined Tom in the garage, helping in small ways, learning about tools, and laughing at mistakes. The townspeople slowly noticed the change, too. Clara was no longer a stranger in the black car. She was someone who cared, someone who laughed with Anna, and someone who shared simple meals at the mechanic's home. Their whispers grew softer, replaced by smiles and curiosity. Many realized that this friendship was genuine. One afternoon, the 3 of them sat outside the garage watching the sun sink low over the hills. Anna had a small picnic set up, and Clara and Tom enjoyed the quiet. Anna leaned against Clara, her small hand in hers, and said softly, "Thank you for staying, Clara. My wish really came true." Clara kissed her forehead. "No, Anna, thank you for showing me what family really is. I never knew I needed this until I met you 2. Tom watched the 2 of them and felt a sense of peace he had not known for years. The struggles, the bills, the lonely nights, all of it seemed lighter now. He understood that life's true richness was not measured by money, cars, or power. It was measured by love, trust, and connection. That evening, they lit a small fire outside, just enough to feel its warmth. They sat together, talking, sharing stories, and enjoying the simple joy of being together. Clara told Anna stories of the city in a playful way, and Tom joined in with tales from the garage, making both of them laugh until the stars appeared above. As the night deepened, Clara took a deep breath. "I used to think I could only be happy with my work, my wealth, and my accomplishments. But now I know something more important exists. I have a family that loves me, and I love them in return." Tom squeezed her hand gently. "And I have you, and Anna. That is all I need." Anna, lying between them, smiled as she drifted toward sleep. "Family is the best wish anyone can have," she murmured. In the quiet of the night, with the stars shining above and the fire glowing softly, the 3 of them knew that their lives had changed forever. They were no longer just a mechanic, a little girl, and a wealthy woman. They were a family by choice, bound together by love, trust, and a simple wish that had brought them together. And for the first time in years, Clara felt a home that no money could buy. Tom felt a joy deeper than work or routine, and Anna saw her wish come alive in a way she had always dreamed. Together, under the soft glow of the moon, they faced the future as one, united, happy, and complete.